Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creatives Podcast, where we explore creativity through conversation. This episode is part of a series that we are doing in collaboration with the Ottawa Design Club. And if you don't already know, the ODC is a group of creatives with a dream of uniting the design community in Ottawa. It's an incredible community to be a part of, and I encourage you to check out all the links in the description below to learn more about them and stay up to date on all the latest and future events. The Creatives is also brought to you by Pano Media and Midnight Hour Studios. Their information will be down below as well. The theme of this series is working with your hands, a topic that is dear to my heart and has been an underlying theme of a lot of the things I've done in my life. So on August 22nd, 2024, we held a live panel discussion.
We did,
and it was freaking awesome. That's also linked below. And this series is essentially a follow-up to that live panel where we'll have the opportunity to dive deeper with each of the panelists. And in this episode, I'm joined by Hailey Wyatt, and we're wearing some pretty freaking cool garments. If you're not watching this on video, you're missing out. So we hope that by the end of this episode and all of our episodes, you have one more piece to the never-ending puzzle that is your creative journey. Hi, Hailey.
Hi, Ramsey. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited.
I really like this jacket. I almost don't want to talk about it yet. I'm just going to let people wonder what's going on, but...
You're going to try to steal it.
I might. How fast can you run?
I have a bad knee, so...
Oh, perfect. Free jacket. You can take all the lights. I'll take the jacket.
Okay, we'll do a trade.
It's a good deal. So, Hailey, a question I like to open up with, because it helps me kind of wrap my head around it more, is about creativity, the theme of this podcast. So I'd like to ask you what creativity means to you.
What does creativity mean to me? I would say, to me, creativity means freedom. I think creativity is just the life force moving through all of us. And to me, being creative is just me constantly learning myself and unraveling and exploring and experimenting and playing. I always say that everything that I do is just an experiment, and that there's no such thing as a failed experiment, because you always learn, even if it doesn't go the way that you plan. So creativity is just my great experiment, I guess.
I like that. I find for me, it can be hard sometimes to kind of experiment, because there's always, I sometimes feel like there always needs to be an objective, or there needs to be a reason why, but I guess that is kind of a playful approach.
Yeah, I think that took me a minute to get over, needing to have a certain end goal or that expectation. And then I always make the best stuff when I just completely let go and I'm just making it for myself. So
nice. What have you made recently that was completely for yourself, not any sort of, you didn't put any objectives with it, you were just freely creating?
Pretty much this, what you're wearing and what I'm wearing and this.
Cool.
And it ended up being my favorite things that I've ever made.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to make a jacket?
I did, and I knew that I was creating something, but I just sort of let go of the business aspect of it, I guess. And I'm just going to make this simply for myself. I completely let go of trying to make any money with this at all, and I just let myself be completely free.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you made some pretty cool pieces.
I did. I was I don't care if anybody doesn't understand what this is. I told you, I was this is apoptosis, and you were what?
I still don't know what that is.
I don't know what that means.
We'll dive into it.
But that was the point. I was I'm going to let go of the fact that probably most people won't understand.
But that's kind of cool. Because I feel because that was your intentions, or that was your approach to it, it resonates the way it does because of that. Yeah. Maybe. That's awesome. So Hailey, I want to know a bit more about your origin story. How did you imagine Marvel movie style, it's dark, it's raining, Hailey Wyatt is born.
It is dark and raining today.
It is dark and raining today.
It's lightning outside.
Perfect. We're writing the story.
Yeah.
But just kind of the main chapters, how did you kind of get here? Or have you always lived in Ottawa?
Yeah, so I was born in Ottawa, and I'm still here. Love Ottawa.
Same.
I did leave briefly to go to university in Halifax, but I was born here. As a kid, I I never thought I was going to be a fashion designer. This was never the plan. This thought never crossed my mind. And a couple of years ago, I was just like, oh, I guess I'm a fashion designer now. But when I was a kid, I was basically just a little boy. I was like obsessed with Lego and cars, and I thought I was going to be a car designer.
Same.
And I would just sketch drawings of cars. I was like, I'm going to design the first flying car, and I'm going to be rich and famous for designing the first flying car.
Were you good at drawing?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I don't draw too much. But I like to, when I draw, I like to be like very squiggly with it. Because as soon as I try to draw well, it just goes bad. Which is the same as everything else. But
don't put too much pressure.
Exactly.
Just do it. I like that.
But yeah, I always thought I was going to be like an engineer or something. And then I just always loved math and science because it's just so beautiful. And there's just these beautiful rules that you follow, and everything makes sense, and everything is logical, and everything has a place, and it's just so calm in that little space.
Predictable.
Exactly.
Controlled.
Exactly. And then so always loved math and science. And then when I was 12, I had like an autoimmune disease. So then I became very, very hyperfixated on my biology and my health.
Okay.
And that's sort of what steered me towards wanting to be a doctor after that experience.
Interesting.
So I was really sick, so now I want to like be a doctor so I can help other people not experience what I did. And so then in university, I was like, I don't really know what to do, but I know that I love science. So I just started taking random classes, and I took this intro to micro class, and they were talking about virology, microbiology.
Okay, because I took microeconomics. I just want to make sure it's not the same thing.
Different micro.
Yeah.
So, and there's in the intro class, they talked about the spontaneous self-assembly of viral nucleocapsids into this really beautiful icosahedron shape. And I was just like, that is such a beautiful shape. That geometry, wow, sold. So then I just chose my major.
Can you say that sentence again?
So the spontaneous self-assembly of a viral nucleocapsid into this icosahedron shape.
Interesting.
And it was just, I was like, that is stunning.
Wow.
So let me choose this path because it's just so beautiful. And then I did my degree, microbiology, worked at the Heart Institute in a research lab on microRNA therapies for atherosclerosis and heart disease. And that was fun, but I just didn't feel like I could be creative enough. I was like, there was something missing here. Like the questions, I would ask questions in school, and the prof would be like, well, that's not going to be on the exam, so it doesn't matter, type of thing. And
were you thinking outside the box?
yeah, I was like asking a question about beauty or something, and he was like, that's not on the midterm.
Hailey, this is chemistry, or no, this is biology.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I just feel like there's something missing. And then, anyways, COVID happened.
Okay.
And then I learned to sew. And then I took a sewing class, I took another sewing class, and I was like, oh, this is really fun. It's a combination of like geometry, math, art, all in one. And then I eventually went back to school for fashion design. And then I finished that in 2022. And now here I am. So it was really never my plan. Like it just sort of happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, but you had that, like you had a sense of like creative thought, outside the box thinking, it seems. Like,
yeah. And I always loved art, but it was just, a side thing that came out whenever I got to do a project. I was like, ooh, I get to be creative.
And now you're creating pieces that are being sold globally?
In Ottawa.
In Ottawa, okay.
In Montreal. I mean, I guess I sell on my website, and that sells around a little bit, but.
So Wyatt Design House is the name of your company?
Wyatt House Design.
Wyatt House Design.
Just flip those
My
around.
apologies.
That's okay.
Wyatt House Design. And I understand, as with the theme of this series, creating garments, especially like the ones we're wearing, which I want to dive into a bit, it involves hands. This is not like you can just punch things in and a machine feed it fabric and mass produce 1 million units, right? Like Can you walk me through kind of like what goes into the umbrella falling on the wall? Can you walk me a bit how involved you are?
Yeah.
You know, like actually like hands on the garments.
Right. Yeah, very involved in every step. I think something that people take for granted or don't realize, like so many people think that, oh, just because we use machines to sew clothing doesn't mean that they're not handmade. Like there's still a human behind that machine operating that machine. And especially for this material where I have all of this stitching, there's always like a human signature to the stitching, even though it appears to be very, very random. But I've had like several co-op students or other seamstresses that have worked with me. And, you know, my instruction is, okay, take this piece of fabric and just randomly stitch all over. But I always know who has done each like this jacket has a few different panels, like front, back, 2-piece sleeve, yoke, you know, and I know who's done each panel because the stitching signature is slightly different. So even though everyone's using the same machine, they're doing this random stitching pattern. Like there is still that.
Is it like the speed at which it gets fed through the sewing machine?
Yeah, and some people curve it a little bit more tightly. Some people have like a specific pattern that they do, even though I say it's random, but everybody develops that a rhythm in what they do. So I'm like, oh, yep, that's Alex's stitching, or that's Matt's stitching, or I can.
So
I can
do you
tell.
teach? You teach like sewing, or you work with other fashion designers?
I do. I've had a couple co-op students, which has been so fun and so rewarding. And then I also started doing sewing classes or like little workshops, which has been so rewarding and so much fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, every step, everything is handmade, and I think people are so like far removed from the labor that goes into clothing, which is why we don't tend to not respect clothing in the way that we used to, or the way that we should, because that labor happens like behind closed doors. So yeah, everything handmade.
I feel like there's like currently in the world, the way the world is, there's like the feeling that we have an endless supply of clothing. Whereas like you walk into a store like Uniqlo or H&M and you just see like mountains of t-shirts and just huge, massive stores. I imagine you don't love that. Like what's your take on that kind of like fast fashion, mass production of clothing with less quality, but they're cheaper and like, what do you think of that?
Obviously, I don't love that. I would never like shame anybody for shopping fast fashion though, because it's affordable, and like we live in a world where we expect people to always be keeping up with these trends, and it's like not necessarily realistic to like never shop fast fashion, just because it's easy and there's so much pressure and it's affordable, and you know. But yeah, I think beyond the issue of there being a textile waste crisis, and that we produce way too much, and we need to change the way that we design, the way things are made. We also need to change like our relationship with clothing and our psychology about clothing. So when I design my products, I'm not only thinking about how am I designing this to be technically and structurally durable, but how am I also designing for emotional durability, so that my customer is going to want to continuously repair and renew their garment and grow with it. And obviously when you are mass producing garments and selling them at H&M or whatever, there's no emotional durability there. So
I guess it's not a consideration. When you say emotional durability, you mean like, I love this garment so much, I'm going to keep it alive. It's kind of like if you were to have like a really good pair of boots or a nice pair of jeans, right? Like you would want to keep them alive. Interesting.
Yeah. And when we have this mindset that clothing is disposable or unending or always so easy to get, then it eliminates that desire for us to maintain our clothes, which is just as important as the original design intention at the start of like being sustainable.
I like that. I find too, it sucks when clothes like lose their shape over time. It's just like, it is unfortunate. Like they fit amazing and then they just progressively just start fitting less and less good.
Yeah.
But thankfully I have found some manufacturers of clothing that like I stand by. Like my merch for Pano Media is by this company that I believe they're handmade. I don't want to say it because I don't want people to know the secrets of where our apparel is from. I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But I found that over years and years and years, these garments actually last quite a while.
Yeah. All clothing is handmade.
All clothing is handmade.
Even if it's made with machines, because there's always like a person using that machine, you know?
It's just not made with that kind of like emotional component. Like it's not made with that in mind, right? But it's still made by hands.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like a machine just prints 100 shirts. Someone has to work the machine.
Yeah.
Okay. You said something to me when we first met. I was in Belgium and I was very jet lagged and we were on a Zoom call before the panel discussion. But you said something that stuck in my brain. Okay. You said waste as a design flaw.
Yes.
And I was like, damn, like that's very deep. And I'd love for you to kind of elaborate on that point.
Sure. Yeah, I do believe waste is a design flaw or a byproduct of careless design. I think, yeah, in nature, there's no such thing as waste. Okay. There's no garbage can in the forest.
That's so true.
Like humans have just made up this idea of a garbage can and then we just throw it out, forget about it, move on. But it's just that way of living is just making us sick. It's making the world sick. And I just think as designers, it's like your responsibility to design in a circular way that's in line with nature. Obviously, we are interconnected. We're all one. We're all part of the earth. So we should like design as such. And yeah, I think like if you have an idea for a design, like nature has already done it. You just have to look. Like for example, I just learned this fact the other day and you'll like it. So the bacterial flagellar motor of bacteria that helps them move, like bacteria, they have like a little tail that helps them travel around. That motor basically looks identical to a car motor. So like the way that we design, like if you make something, like nature has already done it, just probably on a smaller scale. You just have to see it. Yeah. And that motor rotates like 5 times as fast as an F1 motor.
That's pretty crazy. It's just like a organism. It's a thing that's alive and just moving around. That's really cool. So how can you like actually design with waste in mind? Like what are some like actual ways where, okay, I'm making a garment, I'm putting something out in the world. What considerations can you take?
So I would say, yeah, when you are designing something, you want to design with like the entire life of the garment in mind. So you want to say, okay, like for example, when I make this material, I'm essentially beginning at repair. So instead of this like linear model of, resource extraction, design, consumption, disposal, I'm sort of starting at the repair stage, which I think sets it up for a more circular life to just like continuously go through that cycle. So for example, like this material, I think it's very inviting for more patches, more stitches, more layers, more story, more life. So that's sort of what I think about when I design. I'm like, how can I invite like future interaction with my piece? And it's not just like I make it and then it gets worn out and then it gets donated and, but how can I encourage it to like people to keep interacting with it throughout its life? And then you can also design for disassembly. So make design choices, be like, how can this be like eventually, if it's going to be recycled, how can it be disassembled more simply? For example, if you're designing a pair of jeans, now a lot of designers will avoid the use of rivets in their jeans and just do bar tacks with stitches instead. So it's like they're removing different elements to make disassembly easier. So
it's because the rivets are like very hard to pull apart.
Yeah, and then it's also just like another material that you need to separate.
Because it's metal, right? That's interesting. Yeah. So speaking of the jacket, please tell me about this jacket. Because I've seen it a few times. It looks like it took a long time to make. Doesn't look like it was very easy to make.
No, months.
Because are these like all, if you're not watching this on video, again, you're missing out. But Hailey's things, Insta and everything will be linked below. And I'm pretty sure you have some photos wearing this jacket, don't you?
Not quite yet. I did.
You have to watch this episode.
and I'm doing a video with Francois. He did like a big video.
He was on episode 2 of this podcast. Oh. Hi, Francois.
So I did a video with him, like a little commercial series of this collection. So there will be something out. They will be out. Yeah, I haven't really posted much.
So this is like to be honest, initial preview right now. Whoever's watching this on video.
Pretty much. Like I wore it a couple times, but not. Cool. This has not been out and about very much.
So it's a denim jacket.
It is.
Does it have a name? Does it have like a product name? Like. Yes.
I think I forgot to name this jacket.
It's okay. It's fine.
That one has a name.
This one has a name. The one I'm wearing.
That one is called the apoptosis jacket.
Apoptosis.
Yes, because it has cell death on the back.
Okay. I don't know what any of that is.
So do you want me to explain?
Please elaborate. Yeah, okay. For the other people who may not know what that is.
So basically, your cells have a option for
cell, like CELL cell.
Yes.
I'm like cell death, like it's for sale or something. My brain is stuck in like marketing mode.
No.
Okay, cell death. That's starting to make a lot more sense already.
Yeah. So for example, if a cell becomes infected or defected or in any way, then it'll go through programmed cell death, which is apoptosis, which is just a very beautiful orchestrated process. And the point of this jacket is just to show that like cell death, which is this like ending, is so dynamic, and that even in death there's still so much movement and motion. And I mean, you can't. Your back is to the camera.
I know. I'm gonna have to like turn this around. Here, have a look, viewers. I can't even see.
And then there's little phagocytes, like little macrophages that are eating the apoptotic bodies.
That's deep. That's really deep. That's a lot more thoughtful than I thought. Like, obviously, initially, I know it's a handmade jacket. I thought you're just kind of like, wherever your hands go, you're putting stuff. But that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. And then this one is the electron transport chain. This was like the first top that I made for this collection. Mm-hmm. And I got the idea for this when I was sick in bed, and I was so pissed because I was sick and I couldn't do anything. And then I was like, you know what I really love is the electron transport chain. That's like how all your cells make energy in like the inner mitochondrial membrane. And I was like, I need to find my old cell biology notes immediately and make a shirt with the electron transport chain. And I was so sick, but I made myself get up and make this shirt, and then it kind of the rest of the pieces unraveled from there.
I love how pumped you are about microbiology. It like makes me smile, because like that's how I feel about other things, like that kind of like giggly, like just like nothing else in the world exists except for the thing you're passionate about. I love that. Yeah,
I just get really hyperfixated on it. I just think it's so pretty.
The microbiology?
Yeah.
What is it about it though? Like for microbiology for dummies, I actually don't quite know what it is beyond that. It's just very small scale bacteria. I don't know if that's completely wrong.
No, that's correct.
It's like a very zoomed in view of biology that makes up living things, right?
Yeah, I would say I'm very hyperfixated on not only my own body's biology, but how my body interacts with its environment.
Okay.
So say like microbiology and immunology, it's about not just the structure of the cell, but how the cell interacts with infections, invaders, problems. Like it's those interactions that I find really interesting. And yeah, like there's so many little conversations happening inside of you right now. Your cells are just talking to each other, showing each other different proteins on their cell surface. You're like, this is what I've got today.
And then I imagine they're reacting to like the lights in here.
Oh yeah.
Happen, like the lights being pointed at us. And
yeah, messing with our circadian rhythm.
Definitely. Sorry, it's evening and we have lots of light. I actually, so do you find yourself in a way, like because you're tuned into this, do you find yourself very kind of aware of your surroundings a lot of the time? Like when you enter rooms or in your new spaces, are you almost like sensitive to changes?
Yes.
Same. That's why I ask that.
Yeah, I am so hypersensitive to my environment, I think. Like lights for sure, and textures as well. Like when I was a kid, I had such bad sensory issues. I literally couldn't wear pants until I was like 14.
You're just running around naked all the time?
I could only wear dresses.
Okay.
Because of like the seams.
Okay.
And like how they were like the folds. Oh.
Dang pants.
Now I can wear pants, but I'm very, very sensitive to my environment, and it's very stimuli.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to like when I sleep as well. I find I'm sensitive to I turn my phone on airplane mode every single night.
That's good.
And in the mornings I try to get daylight because I find it's like I'm sensitive. So I found myself like the more I wasn't tuned into like what my body biologically needs, the more I was kind of like almost getting weaker, if you will.
Yes.
So I feel that.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I find obviously it's kind of annoying at times. I'm not gonna lie. Like being this kind of conscious of like everything that's happening. Like if I hear like this is how annoying. Like the other day, I'm very sensitive to music as well.
Okay.
Because I don't love mainstream music because I don't want to hear the things people are pumping out at mass scale.
Yeah.
I didn't choose to. So I was on hold for like a minute and they're playing the radio, pop music, and I hung up. I was like, I don't need to wait. That's how I was like, nope, I don't want to listen to the radio. It's 9 a.m. because I don't listen to music in the morning. I keep like low dopamine activities in the mornings to kind of go steady throughout the day. So they were pumping music on the phone on hold and I hung up.
You're like, this is not part of my routine.
No. And I was like, what am I doing? Why can't I just not care about the music?
Wait, so what kind of music do you listen to then?
I love just like going on Spotify, Discover Weekly every week. It just feeds me a new playlist of like random artists. I love anything instrumental, jazzy, techno. Just like, I'm not a fan of mainstream pop and the lyrics are just like
That's fair.
Unnecessary.
Do you have any loop songs that you'll play on a continuous loop?
Honestly, no.
Oh, I love those.
But I listen to like spa, like frequency, like the woo, like it's just like steady. There's no bass. There's no, just like a steady frequency. That's what
those are good for your body.
That's what I listen to on loop every morning. If I'm driving somewhere, I'm listening to spa music. I arrive at my destination like
so relaxed.
I'm just like I'm caffeinated. I'm hydrated. I'm like ready to start my day. And then when you bring in like, then I bring in like music that I actually like around like noon or 1, and then I'm like pumped. But that's just my
a really good
sensitivity
idea.
to.
Yeah.
I found that like, and social media is another one of those things where, in the morning, just because you're laying in bed 8 hours, whatever, sleeping, you're just pretty much dead. You're just laying unconscious, and then you open up this glowing piece of glass, and it's just like extremely bright and bombarding you with a whole world of fantasy and stimuli, and it's like, oh, now I want to buy something. Now I want to, now I'm like, you're seeing like attractive people on the internet, and you're like, and then it's been 3 minutes. Like,
no, it's too much.
3 minutes, and you now have seen the entire world.
No, the phones are destroying our brains for sure. I just turned my phone to be black and white.
No way.
So that it's like there's less dopamine. So if you go into your accessibility.
I'm not doing it right now. I'm just starting the
Okay.
cam again. Carry on.
Okay, so you go into your accessibility.
Okay.
And then accessibility, display, grayscale, and then go into your accessibility shortcuts. And then you can click 1, 2, 3 on the side button, and it'll just go black and white. So I pretty much only have my phone black and white now, so that there's less dopamine associated.
I quite like that. That's a very interesting thing.
It gets boring much faster.
Because then you're like not as interested in being on your phone, right? Interesting. So that's a long tangent about sensitivity, but anyways, I feel you. Yeah. I do feel you. And I am curious how that like your awareness and your passion and your like education as well on microbiology, how does that actually kind of like contribute to the way you design things?
I think it contributes in a couple of ways. So I would say, one, which I already said, that I think of all of my designs as an experiment, and that there's really, like, it just helps me to let go of this idea that it has to go a certain way, and that even if it strays or if it goes in a different direction than what I've originally planned, like, there's no such thing as a failed experiment, because I've learned, and that is a success, and that helps me mentally to just let go and be like, okay, it's fine. I can make this stuff, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I would say it also just probably my attention to detail or my hyperfixation on stuff. Like, I really pay attention to those like smaller details that are often overlooked, and maybe that gives me more motivation to think about the end of life of the garments that I'm making. And I think also I just love that like microbes and fungi and bacteria, like, they are sort of the engines of the earth that are like, you know, turning organic matter into new life, and they're just sort of like fueling these like cyclical processes in the soil and in our bodies, and that like our bodies are actually contain more bacterial cells than human cells. Fun fact.
Okay.
Not in terms of mass, but in terms of number.
But they're they're lighter?
Yes. They're like much smaller, obviously, but like in terms of number, we are technically more bacteria than human.
The word bacteria seems to just have like for me at least, the connotation of like bacteria is dirty.
Right.
But is that not true?
No. Bacteria is so healthy for us. Bacteria is part of our immune system. Like your whole body is coated in bacteria, and that protects you. And your microbiome in your gut is responsible for like so many functions in your body, and like, yeah, like it's really like its own, not its own organ, but like your brain communicates with your body just as much as your body communicates with your brain. And there's so much bacteria in the gut that's like, you know, like the brain or the gut is like the third brain.
Yeah.
And
just like trust your gut.
Yeah. And there's and also there's like bacteria, they can conduct electricity. Like, they're just so cool.
That is
can
really
do everything.
Cool. So when you designed these jackets, like, were you thinking of 50 years, 100 years, 200 years down the line? Are you thinking that far ahead? Or are you thinking that if this lives that long, it's not going to be a burden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a treasure.
Is that so? We're wearing denim jackets.
We are.
Recycled denim?
I would say upcycled.
Upcycled denim? Okay.
Recycling.
What's the difference between upcycling and recycling?
Oh my gosh, so much.
Okay. Recycling's like the bin at the end of the driveway.
No, so this is like complicated because in Canada there's like no proper recycling.
I've kind of heard that before.
So basically, if somebody says they're recycling textiles, it probably means that they are shredding them.
Okay.
And using them for stuffing or insulation. Okay. Which is downcycling. So it's kind of like diminishing, taking the product, reusing it, but diminishing in value. Upcycling would be taking a product, disassembling it, and then increasing its value.
Cool.
So this would be upcycled because I'm not going back to the fiber. I'm just bringing it down into smaller components. Recycling would be like a chemical or mechanical process to bring it back to the either like the cellulosic fiber or like the thread fiber, and then re-spinning it into a new material. But that we don't really do that in Canada. So
thank you for that distinction. I like that.
You're welcome.
Are both, I suppose downcycling is still better than just throwing it in the garbage?
Definitely. But it's kind of like putting pause on the life cycle, which that's just, that's a temporary solution, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are upcycled from just
old jeans.
Old jeans, all pants, all denim, like just pants, or I guess jackets.
I think for the most part, pants.
Pants, jackets.
But I do get a mix of stuff.
So how do you create like the surface area of a jacket from a pair of jeans? Like, did you just get like a size 40 XL?
So first I create the material.
Okay.
In large chunks, and then I will cut my pattern from the material. So what
do you mean you create your material?
So like this material.
Okay. Oh, like the outer. So like,
yeah.
Okay.
So I have like a layer that goes underneath, and then I put this on top, and then I like fuse it all together, and then stitch on top that kind of like reinforces it, and then this technique kind of eliminates the variability between the different types of denim so that it acts as one material. It's kind of like almost felting it, I guess. And then I'll cut from that material. So it's very labor intensive. First I'm kind of making the fabric, and then I'm making the actual garment.
Right. How many hours are in these jackets each, like respectively?
Unfortunately, I don't know, but like several months.
Months. Like this isn't like a couple hours in 1 week, you're done.
No.
Several months to make these. Wow, I'm honored to be wearing this. Thank you. And these are items, these are garments, like people can buy this stuff on your website.
So this collection, honestly, Ramsey, I don't know. I made
Is it a limited
number? Yeah, this is it.
So this is one of one, what I'm wearing right now.
This is the only one.
I definitely should run away with this one.
No, and I don't know if I'm going to sell it or if I'm going to, because I love it so much. And
I know exactly how that feels.
And yeah, there's only one. It means so much to me because it's like, this is the first collection that I made where I just like let go of anything. And I'm just going to make whatever I want. And I don't want to lose it.
Because of like, it has that meaning. It's like kind of like a pretty big.
Yeah. So I don't know if I want to have it I want to have it on display somewhere, I think. And then if I do sell it, I don't know, someone will have to give me a hefty offer.
Chunk. Like 10K, 5K. What's the number? What are we letting this jacket go for?
Maybe 10K.
10K. Any buyers in the comments? Let us let us know. It's
just special.
I know that I can relate to that feeling of like not letting things go. For me, like my version of upcycling, even though I'm not breaking cars, I love old cars, and because primarily you can get them for very cheap. So that's a bonus, right? You don't break the bank. You don't go into crazy debt.
Yeah.
At least financially, you go into emotional, physical pain. But that's another story. That's besides the point. But like taking an old thing, and then making it modern, putting modern touches on it so that it works. You know, my oldest car is 33 years old, and it's an old Japanese sports car. I don't know how it's even road legal still, but it is. Like you can register this thing, and it's hilarious on the road. I'm smaller than the smallest car on the road. I'll show you a photo after. But I love keeping it alive. But the same thing, it's like, it is kind of a logistical inconvenience to have a car that old. But I don't want to let it go.
No, you can't.
Because it has so much. It is a one of one. It's built custom. There's so many stories that are tied into.
It's like a mosaic of so many other cars.
It literally is. There's probably like 15 to 20 different cars in that car.
Cool. Do you have a list of all of the other types of cars? Have you like charted or graphed all of these parts and where they've come from?
I haven't, but I could sit down and have a look and write it all down. That's actually a really good idea.
You should make like a map of your car.
Because I've traveled like far across Ontario, Quebec to like source parts, and some parts have come from
cool.
Japan, and like the car has an engine from another car in it right now, and a drivetrain from another car in it, and like the seats are from something else. It's a whole mix match, but it works beautifully in harmony. I feel like I do see kind of ties to like you're bringing in materials, and you're putting them together in a unique way, and then presenting that, and it can be enjoyed, but no one actually fully understands except for you, which is why we can't sell these yet. But they're cool. This is a really comfy, warm jacket.
Good. That one is warm. It's actually lined with wool.
Okay, that's cool. I love that. There's something written on your website that is also kind of related to this. I'm going to quote it. The visual effects of time are then simply just proof that we have lived, proof that we have played. It's just, that one was just like, wow.
Thank you. I forgot that I said that.
Yeah. Did you said that though?
I did.
I'm pretty sure.
I did.
It was on your website.
I swear that wasn't ChatGPT. I said that.
Dang, ChatGPT stealing our jobs. No, I love that quote because the proof that we have played and lived is like, I feel like it's easy to get caught up in like just doing things that like we forget to live and be humans. Like we're not robots, we're not machines. Like we are humans. We are complex, weird, and unpredictable. And that's why I love old stuff, because it's whether it has a story, there's proof that it has been around and served a purpose for a while. And that's why I will continue to keep old things alive as much as possible.
Yeah, I always have been a collector. I love collecting antiques.
Just antique anything. I love antique stores.
Me too.
So fun.
I know. Like my grandparents were big collectors.
Okay.
And I use collectors as a euphemism for hoarders.
Such a nice way. But
so I have that gene in me to like
this
collect.
is like a genetic thing.
It literally is. So I've always loved like antique and vintage items and collecting them and like cute little trinkets. And
why? What is it about antiques that is so intriguing to you?
Yeah, I guess like thinking about the story and where it's come from, and that it's so much better than the stuff you can buy now. Also, it's just more beautiful and intricate. Like everything is so like whittled down now to like stupid IKEA furniture. It's like so boring.
I feel that. Even though most of my house is IKEA.
Sorry.
Except for the nice vintage table I have in my living room.
No, IKEA has its place, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
But yeah, it's just more, it's more special. And then like this, I want my material to change through time and have that change be something that makes it more beautiful and increase its value, not decrease its value. And I think like vintage items, there is that aspect of like when you're shopping for something vintage and it has that like distressed feel and it actually increases the value. And I think that's like very important. And so I want my stuff to like material will fray, and that fraying and decomposition is intentional and part of the design. Like I want it the life that you live in it to be seen.
That's cool. And I suppose it will still have its function, right? Like even though it may fray, it's not gonna stop being a warm, cozy jacket that you can put on and go outside. Yeah. Cool.
And then as you go on, you can add more stitching and more patches to it, and it's just like this continuous loop.
I like that. And I love antiques too. I love antique stores because it's like I get excited like what am I gonna find? It only takes finding one thing one time to just get you like hooked on antique stores. Like I found a vintage Canon zoom lens in an antique shop for like $60, and it was pristine and it was covered in dust with a beat up lens filter on it. And since then, that was like the first like, oh my God, this is an amazing find. I just go back to antique stores. I'm like, what camera stuff can I find? What can I find in here? And it's just, Me and my friend once found some old notebooks. We just sat there reading old notebooks and old stories, and that has me sometimes thinking about like when I'm journaling and when I'm writing notes.
Is somebody
like,
going to find your notebook?
I don't want anyone in the world presently or in the next 50, 60 years to read my personal notes. But beyond that, if they end up in a vintage shop or an antique store or like a consignment store, I'm going to be super pumped. I want someone to read along on my journey because there's a lot of wild things that happen in my life, and I document them, and I hope that in 100 years someone could read them and be like, what the actual heck was going on here?
Well, they'll definitely see your podcast.
That is true, unless the internet just fails to exist.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
If the internet, I think that would maybe be for the best.
What would we do? I would be out of a job. When the power goes out, or when it has gone out in the past, I was like rudely awakened at the fact that I can't operate my media company without
That's
internet.
Scary.
It is scary. I'm sure I'll find a way. But then sometimes I'm like, oh, it'd be nice to maybe just like live in the country and just like
just
work on tractors or
work
something.
on your cars. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Hailey, how can we design our wardrobes with waste or like lack of waste in mind? Kind of moving forward, recognizing that this is something that we should really be considering for future generations and our planet. How can we kind of design our wardrobes with more consideration of, zero waste or kind of like that?
Like how can you build your wardrobe? Like how can you shop?
Yeah, like when I'm shopping, when I'm, let's say I need some new clothes, I have events to go to, I want to buy some new dress. Like what are some things I can be aware of or kind of keep in mind that are gonna, maximize longevity of my wardrobe kind of thing, so that I can waste less kind of thing?
I would say the first thing you should do is don't shop. Just see what you have first.
Okay.
Maybe learn how to sew, learn some repair techniques. Thrift, buy secondhand. And then if you have to buy new, then I would say buy something that's like upcycled or from a smaller sustainable brand.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say like the thing about the even smaller brands, oftentimes they're still linear. Like there's still waste being produced, just less.
Okay.
Which is good, but it's still following.
When you say linear, it means like the life cycle of the garment is like there's a start and an end. It's not like a loop.
The production model, I guess.
Okay.
Like when I first started trying to figure out how to manufacture my stuff, I was like trying to fit my ideas or my circular ideas into this linear model, and it was just a hot mess. Like that linear system isn't really built for a circular design, at least not yet. So, but yeah, I would say if you want to build a wardrobe, just you don't need as much as you think you do. And maybe go into it, if you're going to like thrift, go in with a plan, go in with like an intention, because then I think people can get super overwhelmed. Like
going like I need a coat, I need a pair of pants.
Yeah, because then you go in there like the antique store, and it's like,
ooh, what about this?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say
that's good advice. Go in with a plan.
Go in with a plan, with a podcast maybe,
With this podcast. With you narrating the exact steps of what to do at whatever timestamp it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, and also like how can you build a more emotional connection with your clothes? Like think about where your clothing is going to end up in 50 years, and think about like, I think, people don't really have as much of a relationship with our clothes as we maybe did at one point. So for me, I have like certain uniforms
yeah,
that I go to, and have like certain pieces that like, okay, I wear this for like, on this day and this on this day, and I like make these psychological associations with them, and that maybe helps. I'm not sure.
It's like very like Steve Jobs kind of. So you think like the whole idea of like wearing the same thing or wearing set things, you don't have to spend mental capacity, but your intention is different. It's like, right? It's like for preserving and like longevity.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. It's funny. I was actually chatting with a good friend of mine about house chores, and he was telling me how much he hates doing laundry.
Same.
And I was telling him I actually quite like doing laundry.
Really?
I find it rather therapeutic, and I don't put any of my tops in the dryer.
Oh, that's so good.
Because the dryer absolutely destroys the shape of a top and the neck, and it's sad because the shirt will be not cheap and then it just gets ruined. So, but I find it's an interesting way. Like I see clothing, it's like you put it on your body every day. It's protecting you from the elements. It's keeping you warm. It's keeping you kind of dialed into whatever you're doing. So I see it as like this armor, like you put it on you every day. So that's kind of where I've grown to appreciate laundry, the most seemingly boring thing in the world. But it's like, if I kind of boil it down to like, I take care of the clothes that are on my back every day, then when I'm out there in the world, I feel like it's just like a different approach.
Yeah.
Like my laundry process is painfully long. Of like the washing and then the hang drying and then the rotating on the dryer, because they don't actually always dry beautifully, like perfectly, and then the folding, and then I like flatten them all out to fold.
Oh my goodness.
It's extremely elaborate, but then the shirts last years.
Yeah.
And years and years and years and years go by, and I've been wearing like this shirt that I'm wearing here is a garment from our supplier who makes our shirt, but I also like them as blanks. But I've had some of the shirts for years. I've ruined a couple because of holding my cat, and her claws dug in and put holes in them. But then I still wear them. They're just not as
but then
pristine.
They're more special because your cat put a hole in it, and that's so special.
And then I look down every time, I'm like, stupid cat. Freaking claws, just putting holes in everything. So that's my take on kind of like the...
You can also get clothing spray.
Okay.
Or you can just make it. Basically, it's like vodka. Okay. And you can, like things that you don't want to launder as frequently, you can just spray them with vodka.
Interesting.
And let them hang.
So that stops them from what, smelling bad?
It's like it's like an alternative way to clean stuff that you maybe don't want to clean as much. And if you don't want to dry clean it, just spray it with vodka.
Because sometimes like you wear a shirt for like a couple hours.
I mean, I wouldn't do that if something is like covered in sweat.
No, obviously not. But you know, like sometimes you wear something for like 2 hours.
Exactly.
And then you're like, I don't know if I should wash this.
Just spray it with
some vodka.
Yeah.
Quick spray some in your mouth and then some on the shirt, and then it's a party.
Yeah.
Hailey, if you could leave a message to your future self, this is the opportunity amidst this insane thunderstorm. I don't know if you're hearing this right now, but I'm seeing crazy lightning flashes.
Oh, I thought that was the dishwasher.
There is no dishwasher in here.
Oh.
That's a fridge. I used to be a dishwasher, so I'm just imagining a person standing back there with an apron on.
Oh no, I'm looking at the stove. I thought that was the noise. It was the dishwasher going.
There's a wild thunderstorm out there. If you could leave a message, because anything you put on the internet is apparently there forever.
Yeah.
What message would you leave? If you know Hailey, 95 years old, you're sitting there wearing a dope jacket, and you're like flipping through your virtual holograph screen in front of you, looking at this episode of The Creatives.
I would ask her, well, first of all, I would ask her, be like, can you give me a hint?
No, but you're leaving her a message.
No, I'm leaving her a message.
Yeah.
I'm leaving my future self a message.
Future self a message, yeah. So there's no like open communication here. It's like a one-sided time capsule.
I'm leaving her a message. I guess good job for making it that far. And can she leave me a message instead?
I don't think we can go back and no, it doesn't work. Unless I come and find you in all these years, decades from now. No, but then we still can't broadcast it backwards. It has to only, it only goes forward.
I just feel like it'd be more useful if she could leave me a message to let me know that like everything's going to be okay.
But wouldn't that change the entire course of your life? You know, the whole like
Right.
future self comes back and like plucks one
everything.
feather and then the whole world
Right.
ends.
Okay, I guess, yeah. What would I tell my future self? I would tell her, I don't know. Go skinny dipping more. Go skinny dipping before you die more. And I don't know. Take more baths, drink more wine.
That's sound advice. Sounds like a fun weekend, honestly. Bathing.
I don't know why there's a lot of water activities, maybe because of the rain.
All the liquid. Okay. Sounds fun.
Yeah, but I think it would be more helpful if she could leave me a message, though.
I'll work on that.
Okay.
We haven't yet.
If you communicate with
found
her,
that.
just let her know. Like, I would
Technology.
like some guidance.
I don't know what's going to, in our lifetime, I'm very interested to see what's going to happen because things are evolving exponentially for like the first time in human history. So it's going to be very interesting.
What do you think is going to happen?
I don't even know. I just think the world as we know it is just going to change. The way we interact with technology is going to change.
If
the
you
way we
could have
travel.
a chip in your, if you could like have a chip inserted in you, would you do that? No. Why?
Again, sensitivity to foreign objects. I don't want. I'm very aware of what I put in my body. So I don't want. It's just like a dystopian society. Like, now here's a subscription, sir. Oh, this costs $1,000 a month now. Oh, and you're gonna die if you don't pay. And it's just like death. So I just think worst case. There's no way I'm trusting my one life with some tech bro who made a chip. It's cool. I think they have really cool implications for people who, for example, like are paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah,
And it
that would
gives
be
them an
cool.
opportunity to interact with computers and interact and communicate.
Yes.
I think that's beautiful. If it can help people with Alzheimer's to like tap into the memory, amazing. But for healthy, functioning humans, I don't think we should mess with biology. Would you?
I don't know. I think it would be a fun trial. I would do the 30-day trial. And then I would.
Then it's $1,000 a month, and then you can't remove it. That's how they get you. What do you think is going to happen? Future design, like in the fashion space, do you
yeah.
think we're going to keep going down the path of sustainability, or do you think we're
For
just,
sure.
Yeah.
I think that, like, I mean, that's the only option.
Right.
Yeah, we're kind of reaching the end.
I think we're at like a tipping point
Yeah.
of
I
like
mean, there's like literally no more space for our garbage.
that's when we'll be like, oh, maybe we should do something now, and that's when people are going to call you up,
Yeah.
and you're going to be working on garments forever because they're not easy to make. You're gonna have to find a way to mass produce. Actually, speaking of, I guess not mass production, but what's it like with maintaining consistency? Like, can you, for example, like let's say you're doing a collection
Yes.
of something and you're making them all with upcycled materials. How can you ensure consistency or sizing? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, that's really challenging.
Okay.
So I've kind of changed some of my designs to be more be more accommodating fit wise, to account for the fact that there's going to be a little bit of inconsistency, but this style is maybe like a little bit oversized or boxy, so that inconsistency won't be meaningful because of the design.
Yeah.
Whereas if I were to make something, like if I were to make a bodysuit and then make that in like 3 different materials, well, they're all going to fit completely different because they're they're like stretching in like with different materials, right? So kind of impacts the designs that I can do in a way. But then if I'm doing something custom, the one of a kind, then that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's just the one thing that I'm working on. I don't have to reproduce it. But
That's cool. And then being as we're talking about working with our hands, what is it about working with your hands that is compelling to you? Why do you keep going back to making things with your hands?
I think if I couldn't work with my hands, I would literally lose my mind. I feel like there's like life on your screen or on your computer or whatever. It's not real. It's working with my hands is just my way of like processing my life, and if I can't do that, then I will actually lose it. So did that answer the question?
I think so. It seems you're very passionate about working with your hands. Is it like you almost channel your energy through that kind of realm of like working with your hands?
Yeah. And like otherwise, where does that go?
Into compulsive thinking.
Yes.
Ask me how I know.
Yes.
Do your hands get beat up when you're like creating garments? Like, do you?
Not really. It's quite gentle.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Because I'm just really like, so for me, like my biggest outlet of working with my hands is building cars.
Yeah.
And
so you're probably like covered in
they
grease
take
and
quite
stuff.
a beating. Your nails get, you get gunk under your nails. You accidentally punch things when you're trying to loosen a bolt, and then it finally comes loose.
Yeah.
And you punch, and then you drop things, and then it's just metal. It's an amateur working on a metal machine designed by a professional engineer.
It sounds really fun.
It is cool. And then when it all works, it's like this beautiful, harmonious song of just screaming at 7,200 RPM, and you're going around a corner at like 160 kilometers an hour, and you're just like, did I tighten the bolts? Yeah, probably. It's probably fine. So there's a lot of trust in oneself when it comes to that realm of working with your hands.
Yeah, you really have to like believe.
Yeah, you have to trust yourself, and you have to just take care, double check, triple check.
Did you know that the bacterial flagellum does 18,000 RPM?
That's wild. There are not many engines on the planet that can spin that quickly. 18,000 RPM.
I just learned this.
Does it
the
make
other day.
noise?
Oh.
I know it wouldn't be, maybe not audible to the human ear, but
I think everything makes noise.
like
right?
nothing that's moving can move without making noise.
I think so.
Damn.
That's cool.
It's the whole space, that whole realm of like micro, like zooming super in is so crazy, because it's like everything is made up of that, right? Damn. Do you see it? Do you see micro everywhere you look? You're like, can you imagine what it would look like if you were to put a microscope up to it?
Up to what?
Up to like anything, like this fabric on the couch, or like this your skin, or like.
Yeah, I guess so. But okay, do you want to know like a really quick, cool fact?
Yeah.
So basically, like if if you like look at your skin, then you're gonna like zoom in and see your cells,
Okay.
right? And we have this idea that like the cell is the basic unit of life. But the only reason that we think that is because in like 1600 something, this dude Robert Locke like looked under like the first microscope, and he saw these rectangular shapes, and they were cells, but he decided to call them cells because they looked like the cells in a monastery.
Okay.
Like these like little rooms.
Interesting.
And so then it was like, okay, this is the basic unit of life, is this cell, because that just happened to be like the first thing that he saw. But like had it been focused differently on like the mitochondria or on the nuclei, then like would that be the basic unit of life? And so it's like more, we're not just cells, we're just like this like continuous stream of gloop with like all of these like semi-permeable membranes that are all just this one continuous like fluid,
Interesting. But
So-
like we're like a solid form though, like
we are,
we're
but
not
but
gloop.
even like the boundaries between our body and the outside is very blurry, right? Because we're filled with bacteria. So like the
That's deep.
boundaries that we imagine are like so incorrect.
Like the physical boundary, like between like the inside of my arm and the world touching it. Interesting. But like I guess like to like the quick perception, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
it stopped. I can't push my
Yes.
finger through my hand.
Yes.
But-
But really, it's really just like this continuum
That's
with like
wild.
varying densities,
That's wild. I'd be really interested to see the world through your lens. You've given us a really interesting glimpse today, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Hailey. Because it's really cool to see how like you approach the fashion from like a whole different perspective than anyone else I've spoken to, at least in my lifetime. So thank you for sharing that perspective.
Thank you for having me. This was super fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Wow, this crazy thunderstorm ensued.
I know.
We explored creativity and the topic of working with your hands. I'm very excited about this series of episodes because they are going to live on in the ODC's Building Bridges zine. And the panel discussion will live on, and our conversations will live on to our 9 year.
For better or for worse.
I think for better.
Yeah.
For better, even if it's for cringe. Like, even when I look back at like myself, even a year ago podcasting, I'm like, damn, I feel like I've changed so much in a year. I can't even imagine like 70 years what's going to happen. But yeah, thank you. Thanks for exploring the topic. Work with your hands. I do encourage, do something with your hands. Touch grass, touch a tree, climb a tree, get your hands beat up. One thing I love doing is pull-ups on trees. It's just very like primal and like I feel like a kid. Just like run and find a nice tree with a, it's nature's gym.
Go climb a tree. Yeah.
Yes. Climb a tree, touch some grass, make something with your hands, and check out Hailey on the internet because she has some cool photos, and she's going to be releasing, if by the time this is released, it may already be out, but there'll be a lot more information on these pieces. And are you currently selling any pieces on your website?
I am. Yeah, a couple. Yeah.
So I'll link that.
Some made to order, some ready to wear.
Cool. So Hailey's website will be linked below where you can check it out. And then do you commission? Are you artist by commission as well? So if someone says, hey, Hailey, make me this, will you?
Potentially.
Obviously a bit more in depth. Like
yes.
Not as a demand.
Yeah. I just did a really fun project with Shopify where they gave me their like expired merch.
That is so cool.
Play with.
Okay.
And that was such a fun project.
And you made it and gave it back to them?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
How was their reaction or response to that?
It was so good. Yeah. And they loved it. So I'm very, very intrigued by like those types of projects of like working with other companies and upcycling their old merch that it would otherwise be landfilled.
Cool.
So potentially.
Sweet.
Yes.
Any cool projects on the horizon? Anything in the upcoming months?
I guess I am going to start working on my next collection, but I don't know what that is going to be yet.
Perfect. I mean, these came from that same place, right?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to continue to not worry about it and wait for it to hit me.
Yeah, I love that. It's actually kind of daunting having finished something and then being like, how the heck am I going to do this again? Or follow it up?
It's probably going to be totally different.
Will it be wearable? Or will it be just like another route? Or
oh my gosh, I don't know.
You don't even know.
Oh, well, I think I told you this. I do have a project that I would really like to do. I want to buy an old car and cover it in denim, and just as an art project.
I have a car that I might be getting rid of, so we should talk.
Okay.
We should talk.
Okay. Okay.
Because I don't. It may be at the end of its road with me.
I will upcycle your car.
That would be hilarious. We'll have to talk.
Okay.
Thank you for watching. We're going to chat about how
We're going to have a meeting now.
Turn an old Subaru into an upcycled piece of art. It's a great car. It's been through a lot. I'll tell you more after.
Okay.
For now, thank you all for watching. If you are watching but not subscribed, please subscribe to the Creatives Podcast, whichever platform you are watching it on. That just helps us get it out there to more people. I'm very passionate about amplifying the amazing creative scene that there is in Ottawa. I freaking love Ottawa. Although I wasn't born here, I was raised here for a majority of my life. And I see a lot of potential in the city, which is why I invest so much of my time and effort into this podcast, because it's a platform, it's a place for people like yourself to just share and talk about their perspectives and their approach on art, on design, on fashion, whatever it may be, whatever realm that they express themselves creatively. We love to showcase that on the Creatives Podcast. So thank you for coming along on this journey. we've gone a lot further than I ever imagined this would go, and we're going to keep going for as long as we're able to. So check out all the links below. Check out all of our socials. You can watch this on YouTube in 4K. You can listen to it anywhere in the world on a streaming platform on any device. And if you happen to listen to it on an obscure device, let me know. Like if someone's listening to this on a smart fridge, send me a picture because that would be really cool. But for now, thank you. Stay creative, and we'll see you on another episode. Bye.